How to use Cursor AI, examples and workflows. That work in 2026, Cursor reached $2 billion in annualized revenue in February 2026, just 24 months after launch. Slack took 7 years to reach its first billion. Today, 67% of Fortune 500 companies use Cursor, including NVIDIA, Uber, and Adobe. In 2026, AI is already part of the daily workflow for most developers, and 18% specifically use Cursor at work. Most teams still use it for autocomplete and stop there. That is not where the real value is. The real advantage comes from agent mode, multi-file editing, BugBot, memories, and the workflows that connect them. This guide explains how Cursor works in practice, what separates it from plugin-based tools, and which workflows actually improve delivery, with more than 20 examples drawn from real projects. How Cursor helped our team hit a 14-day launch. Our client needed a real estate platform to be live before paid campaign traffic picked up. The timeline was tight, 2 weeks and a fixed budget. Missing that window would have cost valuable seasonal traffic. The team had to work across 3 areas simultaneously: the public website, the agent portal, and the back office. At the same time, listings had to stay consistent, tour times had to match actual availability, disclosures had to remain accurate, and the system had to launch quickly without adding headcount. Results launched in 14 days instead of a planned 4 weeks, while staying on budget reduced listing intake time by 60% from 20 minutes to 8 minutes per listing. Improved lead response time by 35% through clearer routing and fewer handoffs. Reduced content errors by 30%. In the first month with 0 critical incidents. After launch delivered neighborhood pages 1 week ahead of schedule. Increased tour bookings by 18% month over month after launch. Cursor handled repetitive tasks such as drafting interface text, coordinating copy updates across pages, and assembling checklists and test scenarios. The team stayed focused on policy, pricing rules, and final sign-off. What Cursor AI is and why it matters in 2026. Cursor is an AI-native development environment built on a VS Code fork. When you ask it to make a change, it can edit related files across the codebase, understand project structure, and present diffs for review before anything is applied. In 2026, it functions as an autonomous agent platform, not just a stronger autocomplete tool. Core features: Composer, coordinated multi-file edits with diff review agent mode, autonomous execution of planned tasks with checkpoint approvals, background agents, async tasks running on remote infrastructure while you work elsewhere. BugBot, automated PR reviewer with a bug resolution rate approaching 80%. Memories, persistent project context across sessions. Canvases, interactive visual outputs instead of text-only responses, MCP integrations. 30+ tools including Atlassian, Datadog, GitLab, Linear, and PagerDuty. Cursor rules, project rules for architecture, naming, and coding conventions. Scoped context, at file, at folder, and at Git references to target the right code. Self-hosted cloud agents let teams keep code inside their own infrastructure. Supported models in 2026, Cursor supports Claude Opus 4.6, GPT 5.4, Gemini 3 Pro, Grok Code, and its own optimized models. Auto mode selects the best model for each task and is unlimited on all paid plans. Pricing: free tier, basic use Pro $20 per month, unlimited auto mode plus frontier model credits. Ultra, $200 per month, roughly 20 times more model usage plus priority features. Enterprise, custom pricing with SSO, SCIM, audit logs, and self-hosted agents. How to set up Cursor AI for development projects. A properly configured Cursor setup works like a developer who already knows your code base. An unconfigured one gives you smart autocomplete. The difference is about 30 minutes of setup. Step 1. Install Cursor Download Cursor from cursor.com. It is available for Mac OS, Windows, and Linux. On first launch, import your VS Code extensions, themes, and key bindings. Step 2. Connect accounts and models sign in and leave auto mode as the default. If needed, add API keys from OpenAI, Anthropic, or Google under Settings Arrow Models. Only assign specific models to task types when there is a clear reason. Step 3. Enable repo context and indexing. Open your project folder. Allow Cursor to index the codebase and check Settings Arrow Context Arrow Codebase status until it shows synced 100%. Use app file, app folder, and a GT for scoped references. Step 4. Create project rules. Create a .cursor rules file in the repository root. Add your frameworks, naming conventions, file structure, testing tools, and code review standards. Commit it. Cursor will then apply those rules across its suggestions. Step 5. Add an AI onboarding doc. Create an agents.md file that covers the project, purpose, architecture, main workflows, domain-specific context, and setup instructions. Cursor can use it as a working knowledge base, and new developers benefit from it too. Step 6. Set up memories. After key decisions are made, tell Cursor to save them. For example, remember that we use Zod for validation, and our API follows REST conventions. Cursor can then apply those decisions automatically in later sessions. Step 7. Use MCP safely. Enable only the integrations you trust under Settings Arrow Features, Arrow MCP. Common options include Docker, Postgres, Terminal, Atlassian, Datadog, GitLab, Linear, and PagerDuty. Always review what Cursor is about to run before approving it. Step 8. Build a healthy workflow. Use Ask mode for planning. Move to agent mode once the task is clearly scoped. Use background agents for longer running work in parallel. Review every diff before accepting it. Commit early, commit often, and use branches for larger AI-assisted changes. Practical examples: feature development. Generate a REST API endpoint with validation. Open the backend project and use at file or at folder to point Cursor to the relevant routes and controllers. Prompt. Add a post/orders endpoint with validation for product, ID, and quantity, following the same structure as existing endpoints. Cursor can propose coordinated changes across the controller, route registration, and validation middleware. Review the Composer diff, test locally, and commit. Add Google OAuth login to a React app. Open the authentication folder and prompt. Integrate Google OAuth using React-OAuth, consistent with our Redux-based auth pattern. Cursor can update the login component, add the Google sign-in button, wire Redux actions for auth state, and define the callback flow. Extend an e-commerce app with a wishlist feature. Define rules in .cursor rules, such as wishlist items are tied to user ID, stored in MongoDB, and exposed through /wishlist API. Then prompt, add wishlist functionality across back-end routes, schema, and controllers, as well as the front-end React component and API calls. Composer can propose back-end and front-end changes in a single pass. Practical examples: testing and QA write jest unit tests for a payments module. Select payments.service.js and prompt. Generate jest unit tests with mocks for external APIs. Cover success, failure, and edge cases. Cursor can create a payments.service.test.js file. Then run npm test to confirm coverage and report any failures to the next prompt. Generate Cypress tests for a checkout flow. Highlight the checkout folder and prompt. Create Cypress end-to-end tests for checkout. Add to cart, apply discount, complete purchase. Cursor can generate test scripts that mirror real user flows and fit into CI/CD. Create GraphQL integration tests. Open the Queries folder and prompt. Write integration tests for GraphQL queries using Apollo Test Client. Cursor can scaffold query and mutation tests aligned with the schema, which helps prevent drift across services. Practical examples: debugging debug, a single service with that file. Highlight the service file and ask, why is this null pointer exception happening on line 56? Suggest a minimal fix. Cursor can identify the likely cause and propose a targeted fix instead of rewriting the whole function. Find memory leaks in node.js, paste log output, or profiling data and ask, trace memory leaks in payments.service.js and propose fixes. Cursor can surface unclosed database connections, lingering listeners, and other common causes. Fix failing CI/CD pipeline logs. Copy the error logs from a failed run and prompt. Explain this failure and suggest changes consistent with our code base. Cursor can turn noisy output into a clearer diagnosis and patch-level fixes. Practical examples: documentation, auto-generate inline JS doc. Highlight a service file and ask, generate inline JS doc comments for all public functions. A cursor can add parameters and return descriptions throughout the file. Summarize a repo into an onboarding guide, open the repository root and prompt. Summarize the codebase in an onboarding guide that covers architecture, modules, and setup steps. Save as onboarding.md. This gives new developers immediate context. Generate UML diagrams from codebase structure. Prompt. Generate a UML diagram for the service to controller to route flow in this project. Cursor can return a mermaid or plant UML diagram that gives the team a visual view of the system. Advanced workflows, multi-file updates with Composer can add a subscription entity across the schema, services, and tests in a single pass. It can also update database models, controllers, and tests simultaneously. Instead of managing each file separately, you review one coordinated change set, agent mode, for end-to-end tasks. For example, you can prompt Cursor to build a password reset flow that includes database migration, back-end logic, email integration, and front-end form support as a single connected task. Agent mode breaks the work into steps, executes them, and surfaces the output for review. Background agents for long refactors. Assign a refactoring task to a background agent and let it run remotely while your local machine stays free. When it finishes, review the diff and iterate BugBot on every PR-enable BugBot across all repositories. It runs automatically on pull requests, flags likely bugs instead of surface-level style issues, and generates fixing Cursor prompts that take you directly to the relevant code. Memories for persistent context. After key decisions are made, tell Cursor to save them. Teams using shared memories report less context drift as codebases grow and teams change. MCP in practice, MCP can check container health through Docker, run Postgres migrations, and validate schema from inside the editor, or pull open Jira tickets and turn them into a deployment checklist. Work that used to take hours per sprint can often run in the background instead. Pro tips for maximizing cursor chain prompts instead of relying on one-shot commands. Break work into smaller steps. Start focused, run the output, review the result, then follow up. That back and forth pattern is much more reliable than asking Cursor to solve everything in one prompt. Use it references to narrow the scope. Instead of saying optimize checkout performance, try something more specific, like at checkout.service.js refactor process order for performance without changing logic. Reference at order.model.js for validation rules. The more precise the context, the better the output. Leave auto mode on, it is unlimited on paid plans and usually makes the right routing decision. Only switch to a specific model when there is a clear reason. Manual model selection often burns credits without improving outcomes. Use BugBot on every PR. BugBot catches race conditions, null pointer issues, and async logic bugs that human reviewers often miss. With a bug resolution rate approaching 80%, most of its findings deserve attention. Define clear coding standards for AI contributions. Set formatting, naming conventions, and architecture rules in .cursor rules. Be explicit about what AI should handle, such as scaffolding and repetitive code generation, and what should remain human-owned, such as core business logic and sensitive workflows. Track AI adoption like any engineering improvement. Define measurable outcomes such as shorter cycle times, faster onboarding, and better test coverage. Teams that measure impact can refine workflows, scale what works, and explain the value of AI tooling to leadership. Cursor AI versus GitHub Copilot in 2026. In the January 2026 JetBrains AI Pulse survey, GitHub Copilot led workplace usage at 29%, while Cursor and Claude Code were each at 18%. Why Inoxoft for AI-assisted development? Our team uses Cursor across most projects, not as an experiment, but as part of the delivery process. What we found is simple. Cursor removes repetitive work such as wiring APIs, setting up authentication flows, and documenting code. That leaves more time for architecture, business logic, and quality control. Why engineering teams choose proven delivery results. In fintech and real estate projects, Cursor helped reduce time to market by up to 30%, cut bug resolution time by 20 to 25%, shorten onboarding to 1 week or less, and reduce overall delivery time by about 40% while maintaining code quality and compliance structured workflow, not ad hoc prompting. We define .cursor rules, agents.md, coding standards, and review checkpoints before the first line of AI-assisted code is written. AI built into delivery, not added on top. Cursor is integrated into onboarding, QA, documentation, and debugging workflows, not just feature scaffolding, security, and compliance by design. Inoxoft is ISO 27001 certified. Sensitive prompts are protected, MCP permissions are scoped carefully, and AI-generated code goes through the same review process as human-written code. If your team wants to reduce delivery time without lowering standards, the first step is to design the workflow around the tool, not just turn the tool on. Conclusion: Cursor started as a smart code editor. In 2026, it became an autonomous development platform that combines multi-file editing, automated PR review, background agents, persistent context, and 30+ tool integrations. The core value remains the same. Cursor handles repetitive work so developers can focus on tasks that require human judgment. What has changed is the range of work it can now handle and the consistency with which it can support delivery. Whether the goal is to launch an MVP faster, modernize a legacy codebase, or shorten onboarding for a distributed team, the workflows above provide a practical starting point. The ceiling is still rising.